Prologue. The shadow that should not exist. They say the gods make no mistakes, and yet in the forgotten corners of the world there are things that should not be, but are. Things that breathe and bleed and walk the earth in defiance of fate. Nakal was one such thing. Born of two peoples, yet belonging to neither, he was a child of silence and shame. His mother, an elf of high blood, whose name was stricken from memory. His father, a mortal man, whose face no song dared recall. Their union was an offense in the eyes of both their kin, a blight upon bloodlines that prized purity above all. The elves called him Betrayal, meaning the broken lineage. To men, he was dreadspawn, a child cursed from the womb. And when he came of age, there was no tribe, no house, no hearth that would claim him, only whispers, only fear. But Nakal survived. For years he wandered between the dying forests of the elven realms and the crumbling strongholds of men, learning the craft of silence, mastering the patience of shadows. Yet no matter how far he roamed, the hunters always found him. Elven blades, mortal fire. Always there was someone eager to finish the gods' forgotten work. In the end, it was his own kindred who cast the final stone. They bound him in runes older than spoken language, chained him with iron stolen from the bones of dead gods, and as the blood moon rose, they placed him within the black pearl, a prison wrought from night itself. They whispered prayers of cleansing as they cast him into the churning black of the ocean, a sacrifice offered to the deep for renewal. And so he fell, and so he slept, 1,000 years of darkness, 1,000 years of drowning in silence, until now. Chapter 1. The Unchained. The wind that night was hollow. Salt and rot clung to the air as Thomas stood at the edge of the cliff, staring down into the endless sea. In his hand, the black pearl gleamed like a dying star. He felt its weight, heavier than it had any right to be. He told himself it was only a relic, a trinket, and yet, something in the back of his mind screamed at him to let it go. So he did. The pearl fell, vanishing into the depths, and the sea went still. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the mists rose, thick and fast, curling over the surface of the water like ghostly hands. The tides halted, the air grew heavy, and the sky, once dark, flared white as lightning split the heavens. From below, something surged upward. The waves exploded outward as if struck by a hammer from the deep. Foam and brine erupted, and from the chaos, a figure was flung onto the jagged rocks, a body pale and broken but alive. Nakal lay there, gasping, coughing water from lungs that had not tasted air for a millennium. His fingers clawed at the stone beneath him, nails broken and bleeding. His eyes, silver once, now clouded by time, blinked against the light of a world remade. He did not recognize the sky, nor the stars above it, but the earth beneath his hands, he remembered her well. His body trembled with weakness, every movement a lesson in agony. Yet his mind was sharper than ever. It had sharpened in the silence, in the waiting, in the hate. "I still live," he whispered, the sound rough, alien on his tongue. "And I remember." And he rose. Chapter 2. The White Waters and the Omen. The world had moved on without him. Forests that had once sung with light now stood silent, their boughs withered. Cities whose towers once pierced the clouds lay as broken stones, their names long forgotten. Even the rivers ran sluggish, poisoned by age and sorrow. Nakal walked through these ruins like a phantom, unseen, unknown. His bare feet left no mark on the soil. His breath fogged no glass. He was a shadow of an age buried beneath ash and regret, but legends whispered still. In the lands of white waters it was said there were elves who had never died, who swam the rivers of time and memory. The Omen, the last of the dreaming ones who had traded flesh for spirit and lingered in the spaces between seconds, and so Nakal sought them. Days bled into nights, nights into months. Seasons turned on themselves in those accursed lands, until at last he found it, a lake of mirrored glass, where not even the wind dared breathe. She rose from the stillness, silent as dawn. Her hair floated around her like silver smoke. Eyes, ancient and deep, met his. She was beautiful in the way ruins are beautiful, a memory of what was and a promise of inevitable decay. He spoke first. "Are you one of them?" His voice cracked like old parchment. "Are you an elf?" She tilted her head, her gaze curious, but without warmth. "I am a dream, Nakal," she said softly. "As are you, but I am a dream that remembers." She told him of the source of knowing, hidden beneath the lake's depths, a well of memory that showed truth to those brave or foolish enough to seek it. But knowledge came at a price. None who dove beneath its surface emerged untouched. Some did not emerge at all. Still, Nakal waded forward, leaving the world of breath and warmth behind. Chapter 3. The Drowned Truth. The water was cold, deeper than thought. It filled his ears with silence. It took his sight, his breath, and then visions. He saw the beginning before time bore names, the shaping of mountains from the bones of gods, the carving of rivers with divine hands. He saw the firstborn, the elves in their pride and cruelty, weave life from light, then choke it with the same hands. He saw himself, born not by love, but by necessity, a tool, a symbol, his life shaped to mend an old wound in elven honor. But when he did not become what they desired, they turned upon him. They named him Abomination, and they sacrificed him to make the shame go away. They had lied to him, lied to themselves, and as he rose from the depths, his heart heavy with this knowing, the woman, Omen, was gone, set free by his descent, a prisoner no longer. But he was changed. He was the sum of things that should not be remembered. Chapter 4. The Weight of Knowledge. He stood once more on the shore of the white waters. His body was whole, but his mind bore scars no blade could etch. He was alone, no people, no home, no name worth speaking. But within the visions one face had shone clearer than the rest. A man, standing on a cliff, holding the black pearl in his palm. Thomas, the one who had broken the chain, the one who had called Nakal back into the world. And Nakal knew then what he must do. Chapter 5. The Gathering Storm Metropolis. Was a corpse, pretending to be a city. Stone walls streaked with blood, market silent but for the cawing of crows. Its people twisted, sick with the curse. Some whispered it was the old gods. Others swore it was a plague. But Nakal knew better. Asmore laughed in the darkness. The ancient hunger had found a way back, and the world had Thomas to thank for it. Nakal watched the man from the shadowed alleys, a man who believed himself righteous, who believed the world could still be mended, who had thought the Black Pearl was nothing more than legend. But legends always return. Nakal did not come to kill Thomas, not yet. He came to ask the question that mattered. Why? And in the answer, he would find the shape of his true enemy. Epilogue. What was forgotten has returned. Nakal walks the earth again. Though he was never meant to, he is not man, he is not elf. He is what was buried, what was denied, what was forsaken. And now he remembers everything. His journey is not one of mercy. It is not one of vengeance. It is one of truth. And truth has a price. Perhaps he will find a place in this broken world. Perhaps he will bring about its ruin. But one thing is certain. I am not what you think I am. I am what you chose to forget. And now, your story begins again. Nakal.